Welcome everybody, thank you so much for coming. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Briggs. I'm the Executive Director of Middlebury Studio School. And if you don't know, this is Middlebury Studio School's new home for our Fine Arts program. We are starting to move in next week, so we're really excited to be able to open our doors and welcome you in here for this Chat with an Artist series. We're really excited to have Kelly Hickey here with us, so thank you so much for joining us. We will continue the series in the fall, so we have a paper sign up there if you want to sign up for our newsletter. We always we just put out a weekly email. We don't bombard you, but we tell you about events like this and classes that are coming up. In the fall, Hand Sessions will be joining us amongst other artists, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, this summer we have all sorts of events happening. We do pizza and pottery down at our clay studio, and I will just promote our pottery sale that we have here this Saturday from 9 to 1. And we normally have a really wonderful selection of work on that day, so if you can, come check it out. And I will pass it over to Jill. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all for coming. This is our third chat, and we're going to try to chat with as many local artists and sort of regional artists as we can, different types of art and creative endeavors. So thank you, Kelly, for joining me tonight.
Out of the kitchen and into Middlebury Studio School.
That's right. And I'd also like to thank Sarah Peluso, who is underwriting tonight's chat. And retroactively, Ebenezer Punderson Law, who underwrote the first chat that I did. Thank you all for coming. So most of you know Kelly Hickey. She is an amazing community member, and she had an upscale vintage clothing, upcycle vintage clothing company, Edie and Glow, which is an Etsy company. And then, but tonight we're talking about textile art, which kind of has evolved simultaneously from her apparel design, which she studied and graduated from the University of Delaware in 1988.
Ooh, yeah.
Just the other day.
Just
last year. So maybe you could start out by talking a little bit about how that evolution of you're like a master craftsperson, really. If you've ever worn a dress and danced in it, or had accessories, or put, some pillows that Kelly has made, you'll realize that they're incredibly made. So how that sort of textile art and apparel design that you studied evolved. Maybe you could start.
Yeah, so I went to the University of Delaware, and Delaware is a college program that is funded by DuPont, the textile company, and I happened to grow up in the town. And so DuPont, Gore-Tex, and Chrysler are the big industries there, and they really create students who are engineers as much as they are artists. So the program that I did was a Bachelor's of Science degree, and so I learned not just apparel design, but also computer-aided design, textile formation. So the degree that I ended up with was almost like an engineering degree. And I went to work for DuPont right after graduation and worked in computer-aided design for a Spanish company called Investronica. And I was working with big designers and big auto corporations in learning how to fit textiles into modern cutting room technology. And so I would be in Donna Karan one week, and then be in Nike the next week, and then be in Detroit with another Chrysler plant. And I was learning a lot, but I was also noticing that there was a lot of fines that we were receiving as part of DuPont, where there was a lot of textile offage that we were throwing into landfill and waste areas that rather than it being cleaned up, they just said, well, we'll pay the fine. It makes it much easier in the waterways. And so I stayed with them as a consultant for 2 years, and then ethically had a moral uprising and said, I have to be able to fight this. There's just no way that I can stay within this world. And yet I felt like I owed them a little bit because they had helped pay for my education. And so it was kind of like insider information that I had or collected from working for them. And when I graduated, soon behind me came a gentleman who, he and I decided we were going to start our own business, and we were going to do it in a way that really appreciated exact cutting, so we weren't creating a lot of waste. We were creating garments in all white, and then specifically dyeing with earth-friendly dyes. And we were working with Urban Outfitters at the time. Urban Outfitters is in Philadelphia, and I grew up in Newark, Delaware, where the university is. So I kind of knew that Baltimore to Philadelphia production line. And I was like, oh, I really love this world. This is great. And our line was doing well. And then I met someone, fell in love, got married, and moved to Vermont. So I sold my line of the business to him, and he in turn sold it to Urban Outfitters. So it's kind of fun to have started that way and to have seen that whole, well, that's what it might have been like had I gone that huge production way. But we got here to Vermont, and I really wasn't finding the connection of textiles of where I wanted to be until I became a young mom. And then my friend Rachel Kerner, who many of you know, decided that we were going to start a clothing business together, and then also thinking about the morals and the ethics of too many clothes and fast fashion, we decided to create a children's clothing wear line that was reversible clothing, and we were only going to make a certain amount within the course of a year so that then it didn't flood the markets. We were only selling at small shows, small boutiques, that kind of thing. And then as life just works its way out, we went on a sabbatical. Rachel and her partner moved, and time moves on, and when I wanted to start a business again, I started Edie and Glow. And this business grew out of me working with people who were taking vintage textiles out of their families' homes and saying, oh, I have this great sheet or this great upholstery fabric, and it was my grandmother's, and I want to make it into something else, but I don't know what to do with it. So we would start talking about it. And from there, Edie and Glow just started to grow. And I started seeing a lot of closets, a lot of trunks, and I would get called by friends who were moving places and saying, you know, there is this haul in this area. And so I said, okay, I'm going to work really specifically in the 1960s and 70s vintage floral market, because that's what there seems to be a lot of. It's a fabric called percale, which never dyes. It's made by DuPont. It's like a polyester cotton blend. And that business, I started talking to people at artist markets, Burlington City Artist Market, or the markets around here, and those stories that started collecting made me realize that there's more this fabric tells than just the clothing. And I wanted to get away from fast fashion. During the pandemic, people kept buying more and more of my clothes because they were at home and they're comfortable, and I was like, no, I just want you to have one. I'm not allowed to have any more. The idea is that you don't have a lot, so you just have the few things. So I started moving away from creating the clothing and the bags. Once I felt like everybody in my world had enough, I started moving more into the storied pieces. And so, Jill and I were talking about this in 2017. It was a very contentious time on Middlebury's campus, and it was when Donald Trump was in office the first time, and there were just a lot of things going on in our own personal life where we had a child who had a very severe mental health issue, and at those two, with all of that combining, I saw my husband go off to work where it was horrible, and then come home where we were trying to really gather our energy to lift. And I just needed to be able to work. And so I started tearing things apart and really just like finding the stories in the clothing. And that's when I created this piece, which is the number 7. Yeah, can turn it around, I guess. It's the tarot card of the tower, so it's like everything is breaking down, and then it's being reborn, you know, what comes out of the fire. And it's the actual physical, like creating ribs out of fabric that I've torn apart, you know, and just having this moment of rebirth. And so this piece and a kind of a guerrilla project that I did on campus where I took lots of fabric ends that I had in my studio. I made all of these hearts on fabric panels that I created out of t-shirt waste. And I just basically graffitied campus, trees and poles and anywhere I could get these hearts up, just to kind of make people stop and notice that, oh yeah, there is love. And all of this like trajectory of hate and we're against you and you're against us and all of this. And so some of them got stolen, some of them stayed up for a little while, and then people were telling me they had them. And then some of them stayed up for probably like, what, Miguel, like 8 years, right? So we'll drive by and still see one, and it's like in a hidden spot. People are like, what? So that's been pretty fun. So that's kind of where, like, the evolution of how I went from the really creating garments. This is one of the garments to.
Another thing happened in 2017. I do a lot of research on artist residencies and just the business of art and possibilities for people to go and do fun things. And I came across a little ad that was in Oaxaca, Mexico, and it was for embroidery, an artist in residency for embroidery. And I was like, oh, Kelly, I'll send it to her. And I sent it to her, and she applied and got it and went.
Like in the course of 30 days.
Oh my God, that is brave.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, you travel a lot on your own and together, and I'm wondering how that affects your process.
Yeah, so thank you for like suggesting that. This is kind of the greatest thing about having other friends who are artists is that you can really tap into each other and find out what the latest trends are in each other's worlds, or you can also find out about opportunities, about shows, about these residencies where there might be a grant. So I really appreciate Middlebury Studio School for holding space for this. And I hope that like this will become something permanent as part of Middlebury Studio School, because just even sitting in like conversation like this, you might hear something, it's not directly related to you, but you can share it with someone else that you know. So I think those things are important. But so we're a sabbatical family. We take a sabbatical every 6th year. And every time we go, there's like, you're allowed 50 pounds of stuff you can take with you. And you also don't want to fill like your total bag on the way there because you want to be able to bring stuff home, right? So I'm always bringing textiles home. But when I go, and I want to learn from them what the traditions are of that area. And then I want to be able to really specifically put my own twist on it so that I'm not appropriating whatever their culture is. So the time in Oaxaca was really a workshop about this is what we do not appropriate it. And learning that my style was important too is somewhere within that conversation. And so for me, every time I go, I just am really excited too about knowing that what I have is enough. We were in South Africa for a short little sabbatical, and I did a residency in Johannesburg, and it was actually the Wild Coast, but we started in Johannesburg, and we went to this really difficult township outside of Joburg that's called Soweto. And it has a lot of like barrios that have daycares that almost work like orphanages too, I think. So sometimes the kids sleep there overnight, or they're collected there so that, you know, their parents can go off and work. And we walked into one, and the first thing that I looked over and saw was a Brother industrial sewing machine. And I was like, what? How did that get here? How are you using it? And it was really exciting to hear them talk about all ages using it, the mothers being able to come and use it whenever they're picking up their kids to build things or make things or whatever it was. And it made me feel like when I got home that I didn't need to have the next machine. I can use what I already have, and it really kind of kept me in check. And the last sabbatical we just took, we went to California, and I've started bringing a lot of plastics into my work. So this is a piece that I did as a result of being in South Africa. You can see here these little dolls. I actually have 4 children, and these 4 little dolls came from a little market, a little like what would be a swap meet here. It was just in a little box that I found. But this is from the ocean off of the Wild Coast, so Eastern Cape of South Africa. And it has hooks in it, the little lollipop, little lunchbox handles, you know, different fabrics from both my studio, but also fabrics that I collected there. There's a little fish hook in here and a little bobber. So it really is, to me, kind of like a piece about mothering and about tending and how that happens throughout the world. And how, like, just even taking care of our oceans. I wanted to figure out a way to get a piece on there that, like, really reflected even this garbage is in the oceans, but how can we kind of figure out how to absorb that and put it back out there? And then this one from California is all the little bits of plastics that I was picking up on the beaches in Santa Cruz, and every day I would come out with like a 16-ounce Coke bottle full of just little pieces of plastic. So this one I just finished. Round and round it goes, where it stops nobody knows. Yeah, so I'm definitely influenced by travel. Trash is everywhere. There's this funny saying that we heard that where there's people, there are plastics. Is that it? Yeah, so.
So my last question is, what are you working on now?
So I have a couple of ongoing projects. So I am a zero waste studio, so I don't throw away any of my fabrics. So since 2013, I have been creating these 9x9 tiles, and I can pass these around. And it's a big project called All-Purpose Flour. And so the average person throws away 80 pounds of textiles a year. So that is this pile 10 times. And so it's things like, your shoes, art fabric, a mattress, blanket, just silly little things that you probably wouldn't even think of. So I hope to have, currently I have 424 tiles made. It's taken me since 2013. I'm still not done. I'm only at 55 pounds. So probably by the end of 2028, I'll be able to cover a room that's 20 by 30 with these tiles. Yeah, so we can pass some of these around. Also in California, when we started our sabbatical in 2023, we started on a sailboat up in the Gulf of Maine, way out in, I always get this wrong, High Bar Island, something like that. Anyway, it's where one of those big pockets of swirls of trash is, and it's mostly ghost traps from the lobster trade. So while we were out there are a lot of textiles out there too, and one of those was, one thing that I got out of it was the grundens, which is what the lobstermen wear. When they're done with them, rather than throwing them away, they toss them overboard. And so there's a lot of grundens out there. And so I started creating this little shape, which I'm happy to pass around too, and a collection of all the trash that I have been picking up crossing the country for a year and a half. So it's like all kinds of candy bar wrappers or balloons or party hats. And this shape is actually a Peruvian hat that when it all goes together, it normally has like the tassels that come down here. Those tassels represent a spiritual calling. So think about pom-poms in Mexico represent spirits. Each one of those is like a little prayer. And so these tassels are the same way, and that's why you see a lot of people like who are climbers wear these hats, because the tassel is like them calling to their spirit guides. So eventually I consider these like little warrior hats. And I have 100 of them because I'm a production sewer, that's what I do. And eventually I want to do some type of closure with these, but I want to make one that's as big as a room so we can all stand under it and be a giant thinking cap. So I work with Matt Haywood a lot on big projects, so I'm hoping he'll receive my vision. So we'll figure that out. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've got going on right now.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have a dog. I grew up in the from 66 until 70, we lived in Oxford, Pennsylvania, which is like Lancaster County, and on the toaster in the boarding house that my parents lived in was an Aunt Jemima doll, and she was a toaster cover. And I've had her as an Aunt Jemima doll for the last 25 years in my house. And our family has a very diverse group of friends, and I've never felt comfortable actually having Aunt Jemima visible in our home. And so I am learning I'm telling a different story about her, but I'm taking her apart and learning a lot about my own history through her. And so that's a project that I've been working on for the last kind of 6 years, but not until this last couple months have I really decided that I just want to finish it and be done with it.
You mean you're taking her apart?
I took her apart completely. So yeah, there are parts of her that are still reflected in the work, but it's going to be more about just the feminine divine. But when we were in South Africa, I was really studying the Black Madonna. I've been chasing the Black Madonna all over the world, just the history of it, and trying to figure out, like, is that who she was to me? And to be honest, I think she was, because I was going to church and seeing Madonna, and then I was coming home and seeing this toaster cover. There was no other Christian representation in this house that we were living in. And she has a beautiful head ornament and this giant red dress, right, that has all these speckles. Well, if you see the Black Madonna, that's exactly what she looks like all over the world. She doesn't have the celestial blue that we imagine Madonna having. She's much more African in nature, or even, kind of like that Northern African almost. So that's what I'm working on right now. Come out to the studio and see.
Does anyone have any questions? We can open it up.
I did notice, are those for sale? You had a $50 thing on there?
Yeah, on the tiles. Yeah, so I do have some for sale. Good one. This is Emily, who is the new collections manager at the Henry Sheldon Museum, and I'm a trustee there. But yes, so these tiles, there were 35 of them framed for a project that I did to raise money for another project, and they are in the auction at the Henry Sheldon Museum. It's a nice plug there. Yeah, so go see that. The Henry Sheldon Museum right now has this beautiful exhibit called Artists in the House, and it's 35 of your community members who have works there. And Middlebury Studio School has the most beautiful collection of pottery in the gift shop.
Thank you.
It's incredible. If you need gifts or things for your home, it is incredible. I'm so excited for that collaboration.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that new staff is really exciting. Coco's doing a wonderful job. We love partnering with other people in the community, so we're grateful
so
to be
good.
there. Yeah.
That's really good. Yes?
Well, I was just really admiring your repurposing, reusing, rethinking about upcycling and all that. And I'm relating it to recently learning more about textile art from the Native American perspective of Arizona, where I live. I grew up here. But some of the different Native artists that come out to our land have been collecting fabrics in such interesting ways, and I'm seeing some repeated uses of them. So one thing I've seen is the all-purpose flower bags, the bluebird flower bags, and maybe this is even more grander than where I'm just seeing it, but the Navajo community in particular, using the bluebird flower bags, which you can still find in, like, you know, the Shaws of our grocery stores out there. But they've been old bags too, for like that little print, the little print of the bluebird flower. Have you ever seen those bluebird flowers on stuff in your travels?
Yeah, I have. So we did a month in New Mexico, and so I was able to see that. And the way that I spell all-purpose flower in my work is actually FLOWER.
Right.
So like the flower, not flower, the fabric. But it's kind of a play on it because it's all lowercase except for the WE, because I feel like we are all responsible for all this waste, right?
Yeah.
And how can we be motivators to make a change or to make that happen? But that flower bag idea, you know, that's so old. My mom was just, it's so old, right? My mom was a kid in the late 40s and 50s, and her first wardrobe was flour sack wardrobe. Yeah. And she grew up in the Amish country. They were just resourceful like that. Mm-hmm. And she was just telling us, not until she was 13, her dad worked on the lines, putting in electricity and things like that. And not until she was 13 and he came home with a bag of garments from his co-worker's wife did she have a wardrobe. Like, that was her first wardrobe that wasn't flour sack bags. Isn't that crazy? I love it.
I'm still seeing them being used.
Yes.
And I think the other thing that really is beautiful is that spirit of the generosity in your work and how important that is. And that's certainly something I'm seeing in Native art. Like, it's always the first thing, like the first basket that's made, you give to your teacher, and it's all about generosity. Like, everything that's made, it's not a stereotype. It's like I'm really seeing it in the present day Native community.
Absolutely.
Too. You know, so that's kind of neat. Just you have that spirit really strongly. So thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for and then one of the things that we took away is a couple from our time in New Mexico, and especially in the handmade of New Mexico, was that around, like, you'll see a blanket that maybe was from, I don't know, 200 years ago or 150 years ago, but it was maybe taken out of a chest or something like that. And rather than it saying, you know, blanket, unidentified artist or whatever, it said, artist once known. And it was just like, oof. We were, you know, it's true. Like, we maybe lost the story thread, but it didn't make itself, right? And so that, I felt, was like the generosity of someone just saying, like, I handmade that, or chose that dye, or you look at it and all of a sudden you see a knot, like how, you know, the Muslim population that makes rugs always leave a hole in a rug when they make it because their hand is not better than God's. And so there's always those, like, small little stories within textiles that I hope my work, like, gets out there. Yeah.
Well, nuts and bolts, like, what kind of a sewing machine do you use?
I know, it's so funny. I have a FOF right now. I mean, I've ruined so many machines from the types of, you know, materials that I'm using, and I'm not using the appropriate needle. I'm on the road, you know, just whatever it is. But I think I've only been through 3 machines in my life, and I, you know, started sewing when I was 10, and I'm 59, so, you know, FOF has always been good to me. Husqvarna, I had a husky that I loved for a long time, but I just destroyed her. But I don't use an industrial machine. People ask me that a lot. It's hard on your body, and I know the trajectory of my family's history is at a lot of arthritis. And so, like, even when I'm using the kinds of machines I use in the style of sewing that I do a lot of t-shirt quilts for people. And that takes a lot of like this kind of big movement through. So I have a big throat on my foff. It's probably a throat this big, so I can really get the material inside that throat, and then also working it on the outside. So it's a lot of like this kind of work. I'm not using like a free hand or a free foot. So.
I was wondering about the work. I also said about the work that's on that wall there.
Yeah, the musings. So,
Yes.
I have always like just journaled a little bit. My dad is an incredible journaler. He has kept a journal every day of his life since he was 22, and so he's just a journal, all these journals. And I was like, I think that I have that from him. I love to write, and I love to be able to like capture thoughts and ideas. And so when we were traveling, I think probably in Chile or Spain, I can't remember. I just didn't have the capacity to take a lot with me. And so I started kind of needling things. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of started taking off. So when I need a break from this, I kind of go to that. And when I'm tired of that, I come back to this. Yeah.
What is that kind of woven piece?
Yeah, so this, I do work with a lot of museums and galleries to show folks like more teaching pieces. And so this is a piece that I answered a call to artists for specifically teaching pieces. And it's like, this is not the end idea, right? But this is a new way to weave waste. So it's a traditional like weave, right? So I am slitting fabric and pulling it through. And then a gallery or a museum will hang this on their wall in their educational teaching center, and kids will come in and they'll look at it and they'll be like, what is that? And maybe they have the best next solution. So this is kind of like a springboard for what comes next, right?
It's great just as it is.
Well, and people, like, when I show it often, I show it like as instead of having a bed back or a bed rail, you could hang a, rug or a textile or whatever it is. But I make a lot of these and try to send these out because it's approachable by a kid. And even my son saw something where he saw a shoe that had like this knitted edge to it. And when he was working through his recovery, he was like really interested in like, can I make a pair of shoes? Can I knit that out? And that's what really kind of provoked this. I was like, what else can we make? What else? And so this is really a process piece, but you're more than welcome to come up and feel it and to just kind of take a look at it. So I do have, right now I have a piece kind of coast to coast. So I have a piece in Wakefield, Rhode Island. Yay! And Jill was with me when I collected all the trash for it. It's a fish, and it's in this great exhibit called Care down in Wakefield, Rhode Island. It's about caring about our oceans. And then I have a piece in St. Louis, Missouri. It's called Tend. The exhibit's called Tend. It's how we tend to each other and tend to our world. And it's a hoe from a garden, and it's just got drips of fabric coming off of it. And then I have a piece that's out in Sebastopol, California, and it's at the Fiber Art Show there. And it's a sardine can that we found on a hike in New Mexico, and it's full of helium balloons that are wrapped to look like mini sardines onto the can. And it says, our Mylar, and they're from the ocean of Maine, so these two things came together. And I embroidered on it, our Mylar balloons, really a nutritional dense source for our bodies today. And that one is called Soaked at Sea. So yeah, coast to coast. So, yeah, and here at the Sheldon Museum.
Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, it was. We just got a piece back from Oceanside, California. So yeah, so I'm just trying to find my way, and yeah, trying to figure that out.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jill.